Good morning. Sorry. Good evening. Not good morning. I am sorry I completely forgot about AA tonight. Um, just spaced it. Space Cadet. Oh, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm an hour late, and my sister just texted me, "Are you doing AA?" All right. There's my sister in the chat. Hey, Lily. Thank you for reminding me an hour late that I was doing AA tonight. I completely forgot. Just spaced it. I'm a space cadet today, I guess. And I gotta say, happy 14 to my sponsor, Tony. I could not have asked for a better sponsor. So glad that I picked you. You're such a wonderful person, a big part of my sobriety, and yeah, I said I'd forget. But anyways, congratulations on 14. It has been so great to have you as a sponsor and a friend. Your head's going to swell. Why would you do? Well, no, it's been an honor to call you a sponsor. You've never judged me. You've always been there anytime I've needed you, on anything that I've needed you for, and that you taught me how to be a good sponsor as well. And it just means a lot to me that you're still by my side in my sobriety, as much as I'm still in for yours. We keep each other accountable for our sobriety, and that's what AA does. Is it teaches us to hold each other accountable, as well as helping us keep ourselves accountable for the things that we do in life. But anyways, let's get the prayer over and get into it. So this is an AA meeting, and I'm sorry I'm super late. But yeah. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, a lot of people wanting to know how I would do these meetings online and keep everybody safe on, being in the chat and stuff. And that simple thing I can suggest is, if you're not comfortable being in the chat, I completely understand, because I was there at one point in my life where I wasn't willing to even talk in a meeting. And having two sponsors who encouraged me the whole time to use my voice, find it and use it. And so that's what I'm doing here, is I'm using my voice to let you know there's help everywhere. Anyway, 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Mike, are you in the kitchen? Can you grab my water when you get done and bring it out here? It's in my room. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and wrong promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him. Thank you. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So we are in chapter 4. We Agnostics, page 44. It's in the description down below. It'll say more, and if you push on the more, it'll pop out the book we're in, the page number, the chapter, the storyline, whichever one it is. And so I try to put them all there. Sometimes I don't get it all when it should be, so just bear with me. It's AA for a reason, because not everything goes as planned. Obviously, I'm late. There was your first hint. Okay. In the preceding chapters, we have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quiet entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. To one who feels he is an atheist or agnostic, such an experience seems impossible. But to continue as he is means disaster, especially if he is an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. To be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. But it isn't so difficult. About half our original fellowship were of exactly that type. At first, some of us tried to avoid the issue, hoping against hope we were not true alcoholics. But after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis of life or else. Perhaps that is going to be that way with you. But cheer up. Something like half of us thought we were atheists or agnostic. Our experience shows that you need not be disconcerted. If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral We could wish to be philosophy, whatever that word is, y'all. I don't know what it is. Comfort. In fact, needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the were not sufficient. They failed utterly. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power of which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Obviously, but where and how were we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. That means we have written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. And it means, of course, that we are going to talk about God. Here, difficulty arises with agnostics. Many times we talk to a new man and watch his hope rise as we discuss his alcoholic problem and explain our fellowship. But his face falls when we speak of spiritual matters, especially when we mention God. For we have reopened a subject which our man thought he had neatly evaded or entirely ignored. We know how he feels, but we have shared his honest doubt and prejudice. Some of us have been violently anti-religious. To others, the word God brought up a particular idea of him with which someone had tried to impress them during childhood. Perhaps we rejected his particular conception because it seemed inadequate. With that rejection, we imagined we had abandoned the God idea entirely. We were bothered with the thought that faith and dependence upon a power beyond ourselves was somewhat weak, even cowardly. We look upon this world of wearing cable calamity with deep skepticism. I skipped a whole section of that paragraph. Let me go back. World of wearing individuals, wearing theologists, system, and explicitly calamity. With deep skepticism, we looked askance at many individuals who claimed to be godly. How could a supreme being have anything to do with it all? And who could comprehend a supreme being anyhow? Yet in other moments we found ourselves thinking, when enchanted by a starlit night, who then made all this? There was a feeling of awe and wonder, but it was fleeting and soon lost. Yes, we of agnostic temperament have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with Him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creator intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction. Provided we took other simple steps, we found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek Him. To us, the realm of spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding. To those who earnestly seek, it is open, we believe, to all men. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies to other spiritual expression which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth, to affect our first conscious relation with God as we understood Him. Afterward, we found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth. But if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our own conception, however limited it was. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we empathetically assure him that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. That was great news to us. We found, for we had assumed we could not make us of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith, which seemed difficult to believe. When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, I wish I had what that man has? I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes, but I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. So it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. Besides a seeming inability to accept much of faith on faith, we often found ourselves handicapped by obstinate sensitiveness and unreasoning prejudice. Many of us have been so touchy that even casual conference to spiritual things made us bristle with agnosticism. This sort of thinking had to be abandoned, though some of us resisted. We found no great difficulty in casting aside such feelings. Faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open-minded on spiritual matters as we had tried to be on other questions. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. Sometimes this was a tedious process. We hope no one else will be decided for as long as some of us were. The reader may still ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We think there are good reasons. Let him have a look at some of them. The practical individual of today is a stickler for facts and results. Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. We have numerous theories, for example, about electricity. Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt. Why this ready acceptance? Simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reason without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof. And does not science demonstrate that visual proof is the weakest proof? It is being constantly revealed as mankind studies the material world. The outward appearances are not inward reality at all. To illustrate, the prosaic steel grinder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at incredible speed. These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws, and these laws hold true throughout the material world. Science tells us so. We have no reason to doubt it. When, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested it. I just tried to skip another sentence. It's past my bedtime. Hello, Stephen Oakey and little Lucas. the underneath. Okay. The perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is an all-powerful, guiding, creative intelligence. Right there, our perverse straight comes to the surface and was laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. We read wordy books and indulge in needs no God to explain it. Were our contentions true, it would follow that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God, ever advancing creation, we agnostics and atheists chose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end of all. Rather vain of us, wasn't it? We who have traveled this dubious path beg you to lay aside prejudice, even against organized religion. We have learned that whatever the human frailties of various faiths may be, those faiths have given purpose and direction to millions. People of faith have a logical idea of what life is about. Actually, we used to have no reasonable conception whatever. We used to assume ourselves by, or amuse ourselves by cynically dissecting spiritual beliefs and practices when we might have observed that many spiritually minded persons of all race, color, and creed were demonstrating a degree of stability, happiness, and usefulness which we should have sought ourselves. Thank you for hanging out with me, Stephen Oakey. That they're at Desert Adventures in Arizona. Please make sure you check them out. They're really great people. And my sister Lily T and my sponsor Tony. Today is her 14th birthday, and even though I'm late, yes, I'm very late, but I had to do the meeting for her. So instead, we looked at the human defects of these people and sometimes used their shortcomings as a basis of wholesale condemnation. We talked of intolerance while we were intolerant ourselves. We missed the reality and the beauty of the forest because we were diverted by the ugliness of some of its trees. We never gave the spiritual side a fair hearing. In our personal stories, you will find a wide variation in the way each teller approaches and conceives of the power which is greater than himself. Whether we agree with the particular approach or conception seems to make little difference. Experience has taught us that these are matters about which, for our purpose, we need not be worried. They are questions for each individual to settle for himself. On one proposition, however, these men and women are strikingly agreed. Every one of them has gained access to and believes in a power greater than himself. This power has in each case accomplished the miraculous, the humanly impossible, as a celebrated American statesman put it. Let's look at the record. Here are thousands of men and women, worldly indeed. They flatly declared that since they have come to believe in a power greater than themselves, to take a certain attitude towards that power, and to do certain simple things, there has been a revolutionary change in their way of living and thinking. In the face of collapse and despair, in the face of the total failure of their human resources, they found that a new power, peace, happiness, and sense of direction flowed into them. This happened soon after they wholeheartedly met a few simple requirements. Once confused and baffled by the seeming futility of its existence, they showed the underlying reason why they were making heavy going of life. Leaving aside the drink question, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change came over them. When many hundreds of people are able to say that the consequences of the presence of God is today the most important fact of their lives, they present a powerful reason why one should have faith. This world of ours has made more material progress in the last century than in all the millenniums which went before. Almost everyone knows the reason. Students on ancient history tell us that the intellect of men in those days were equal to the best of today. Yet in ancient times, material progress was painfully slow. The spirit of modern scientific inquiry, research, and invention was almost unknown. In the realm of the material, men's minds were fettered by superstition, tradition, and all sorts of fixed ideas. Some of the contemporaries of Columbus thought a round earth preposterous. Others came near putting Galileo to the off for his astronomical theories. We asked ourselves this: are not some of us just as biased and unreasonable about the realm of the spirit as were the ancient about the realm of the material? Even in the present century, American newspapers were afraid to print an account of the Wright brothers first successful flight of Kitty Hawk. Had not all efforts at flight failure before? Did not Professor Langley's flying machine go to the bottom of the Potomac River? Was it not true that the best mathematical minds have proved man could never fly? Had not people said God had reserved this privilege to the birds? Only 30 years later, the conquest of the air was almost an old story, and airplane travel was in full swing. But in most fields, our generation has witnessed complete liberation of our thinking. Show any longshoreman a Sunday supplement describing a proposal to explore the moon by means of a rocket, and he will say, I bet they do it. Maybe not so long after. Is not our age characterized by the ease with which we discard old ideas for new, by the complete readiness with which we throw away the theory or gadget which does not work for something new which does? We had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not a basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should see newsreels of lunar flight? Of course it was. When we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon the spiritual spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. The Wright brothers' almost childish faith that they could build a machine which would fly was the mainspring of their accomplishment. Without that, nothing could have happened. We agnostics and atheists were sticking to the idea that self-sufficiency would solve our problem. When others showed us that God's sufficiency worked with them, we began to feel like those who had insisted the rights would fly or would never fly. Logic is great stuff. We liked it. We still like it. It is not by chance we were given the power to reason, to examine the evidence of our senses, and to draw conclusions And that is one of man's magnificent attributes. We agnostically inclined would not feel satisfied with a proposal which does not lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. Hence, we are at pains to tell why we think our present faith is reasonable, why we think it more sane and logical to believe than not to believe, why we say our former thinking was soft and mushy when we threw up our hands in doubt and said, "We don't know." When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone our evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else. He is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? Arrived at this point, we were squarely confronted with the question of faith. We couldn't duck the issue. Some of us had already walked far over the bridge to reason toward the desired shore of faith. The outlines and the promise of the new land had brought luster to tired eyes and fresh courage to flagging spirits. Friendly hands had stretched out in welcome. We were grateful that reason had brought us so far, but somehow we couldn't quite step ashore. Perhaps we had been leaning too heavily on reason, that last mile, and we did not like to lose our support. That was natural. But let us think a little more closely. Without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith, for did we not believe in our own reasoning? Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. So in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. We found too that we had been worshippers. What a state of mental goose flesh that used to bring on. Had we not variously worshipped people, sentiment, things, money, and ourselves? And then, with a better motive, had we not worshipfully beheld the sunset, the sea, or a flower? Who of us had not loved something or somebody? How much did these feelings, these loves, these worships have to do with pure reason, little or nothing. We saw at last where not these things, the tissue out of which our lives were constructed. Did not these feelings, after all, determine the course of our existence? It was impossible to say we had no capacity for faith, or love, or worship. In one form or another, we had been living by faith and little else. I know I just read that again. Duh, like I said, I'm tired. Imagine life. I hope I'm not reading it again. I'm not. Okay, good. Imagine life without faith. We're nothing left but pure reason. It wouldn't be life, but we believed in life. Of course we did. We could not prove life in the sense that you can prove a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. Yet there it was. Could we still say the whole thing was nothing but a mass of electrons created out of nothing, meaning nothing, whirling on to a destiny of nothingness? Of course we couldn't. The electrons themselves seem more intelligent than that. At least so, the chemist said. Good night, Stephen Oakey. Thank you for coming. Hence, we saw that reason isn't everything. Neither is reason as most of us use it. Entirely dependable, though it emanated from our best minds. What about people who proved that man could never fly? Yet we had been seeing another kind of flight, a spiritual liberation from this world. People who rose above their problems. They said God made these things possible, and we only smiled. We had seen spiritual release, but like to tell ourselves it wasn't true. Actually, we weren't fooling ourselves, for deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other it is there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are fact as old as man himself. We finally saw that faith is in some kind of God was a part of our makeup, just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was as much a fact as we were. We found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. We can only clear the ground a bit if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself, then, if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. In this book, you will read the experience of a man who thought he was an atheist. His story is so interesting that some of it should be told now. His change of heart was dramatic, convincing, and moving. Our friend was a minister's son. He attended church school, where he became rebellious at what he thought an overdose of religious education. For years thereafter, he was dogged by trouble and frustration, business failure, insanity, fatal illness, These calamities in his immediate family embittered and depressed him. Post-war disillusionment, even more serious alcoholism, impending mental and physical collapse brought him to the point of self-destruction. One night, when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known a spiritual experience. Our friend George rose as he bitterly cried out, "If there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me." But later, alone in his room, he asked himself this question: is it possible that all the religious people I have known are wrong? While pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then, like a thunderbolt, a great thought came. It crowded out all else. Who are you to say there is no God? This man recounts that he tumbled out of bed to his knees. In a few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. It poured over and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood. The barriers he had built through the years were swept away. We stood in the presence of infinite power and love. He had stepped from bridge to shore for the first time. He lived in conscious companionship with his Creator. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. No later vicissitude had shaken it. His alcoholic problem was taken away. that very night, years ago, if it disappeared, save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never re-entered, and at such times a great revolution has risen up in him. Seemingly he could not drink, even if he would. God had restored his sanity. What is this but a miracle of heading or healing? Yet it eliminates us, yet its elements are simple. Circumstances made him willing to believe. He humbly offered himself to his Maker, then he knew. Even so, his God restored us all to our right minds. To this man, the revolution was sudden. Some of us grow into it more slowly, but he has come to all who have honestly sought him. When he drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. So I believe in a power that's bigger than me. There could be a God. There may be a God. I can't say yes and I can't say no because I don't know. And that's where a lot of us coming into AA hit the brakes. I mean, just stop right there. Nope. You said God, I'm out. I'm a Catholic. I don't go to church. I'm Catholic because my grandmother wanted me to get baptized Catholic. That was the reason. Dumb reason, yes, but I did that because my grandmother wanted us to, and I got my boys both baptized as well. None of us go to church. One of us doesn't even believe in a God, and it's one of my kids. But either way, if you believe in God or a higher power or anything like that, that's where you get your strength, is knowing that you have something that's bigger than yourself that can help you come back to being sober and live a productive life being sober. Because you can get sober without going to AA. I did it twice without going to AA. Twice, I say, because this is my long stint of no alcohol. The first time I was sober for a year, and I didn't go to AA. I didn't know anything about AA. But learning things about going to meetings and chairing meetings and running meetings, I have to honestly give that up to my sponsor. Number one, she became my sponsor. I went to a meeting, my first ever meeting, and I called 3 numbers, and she answered. She was the third one I called, and she became my sponsor. And she's in the chat and celebrating 14 years. I'm super proud. And I couldn't ask for a better sponsor. But not everybody believes in a God, and I've had those people that I have sponsored who say, well, it says God in there. I was like, yes, but it also says a higher power. and that's anything you want it to be. And so after that, they let me know what's going on, and they go to a church of their own that they live close to, and it's their new commitment to a higher power. I did end up having to yell at one of my family members about saying she didn't believe in God, and because I said something, you better pray to her or something, and I say her because I have sisters. I have a brother-in-law too, but so I said you need to change your attitude and pray. That's all you can do about it, And she went off. Oh my goodness, she went off. And she's like, I don't believe in God, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, fine, you're higher power then. I mean, you don't have to believe in God to pray. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody up there listening to me. I still pray every now and then, especially when somebody makes me mad. Because then I got to pray for them to find it's God's will and not their own. Because that's what we have to do. Instead of going into battle, but arguments, you just say a prayer for them and walk away. And my sponsor for a long time had to keep telling me, you need to pray. You need to pray for them. You need to pray for them. And I'm like, I don't want to. She's like, too bad, do it anyway. But yeah, so I got my first AA book from my sponsor, and then I gave it away. And I called her I texted her right after I gave it away, and I said, I give it to, can't remember who I gave it to, but I gave it to somebody, and I got another one. And so I gave one of my little books to somebody, and I told her I gave it away, and I got a new one. And you can get the books on Amazon. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they do have the books there. Both books. You can also get the app. It's called Daily Reflections. Get the app, and they usually have the book, the sobriety date counter, and all kinds of different pamphlets in it. If you really, really need a meeting, try to find one that's near you. I mean, they're everywhere, literally everywhere. I lived in the woods and still found a meeting. But yeah, and I have other friends and family members that hit me up. Hey, can you give me some suggestions on how to help my friend or whatever, And that's why I do these meetings, is so that way people that are looking for a quick go-to meeting, this is here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't delete my AA meetings. They're actually in their own spot. It is my, what's it called? I can't remember what the name is. Let me check. My playlist, that's the word. in my playlist is my, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to read the daily reflection and then let you guys go and have the rest of your night. Throughout each day, this is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 84. During my early years in AA, I saw step 10 as a suggestion that I periodically look at my behavior and reactions. If there was something wrong, I should admit it. If an apology was necessary, I should give one. After a few years of sobriety, I felt I should undertake a self-examination more frequently. Not until several more years of sobriety had elapsed did I realize the full meaning of step 10. And the word continued does not mean occasionally or frequently. It means throughout each day. And that's the truth. But again, happy birthday, Tony. I'm super proud of you, and I'm lucky to have you as a sponsor. You've taught me a lot in sobriety and what you do in ways of staying sober for a long time. You're 3 years older than me, and I'm glad that you're my sponsor. I couldn't ask for a better one. So, happy birthday and congratulations. I know it's not easy, but you did it. You did it. Anyways, I'm going to say the Trinity prayer and let you guys go to bed. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys.